Hi everyone. Today what we'll focus on is what I think is one of the most important concepts to master as a college level writer, as a thinker, but also just as a citizen of the world, where you know how to perform a rhetorical analysis with all of the arguments that are bombarding us every day, whether that's in a billboard or a commercial or a political speech or an article that you read, or here in class with an essay that we read. We have arguments coming at us from all angles every single day, and being able to perform a rhetorical analysis will really help you be not just a better college level writer and thinker, but also I think just a more informed citizen. So let's go through some of the basics of this rhetorical analysis material, and hopefully by the end of this presentation you really understand what we're doing here, what it means to perform one. So what is it? Let's just start there. It's not a simple summary. I think that's the biggest misconception I see with students, is it's easy to summarize something that you've read or watched. What's harder to do though is to switch gears and perform an analysis. So keep that in mind. It's not a simple summary. We're not just telling the reader what the argument was about. It's also not a research paper where we're bringing in sources and trying to defend a stance that we originally created. But instead, what we're doing with a rhetorical analysis is we're examining how the components of an argument work together to move or persuade the intended audience. So again, we're not trying to show the reader, hey, this is what this argument was about, but instead, this is how this argument functions, and this is what made it effective or ineffective. Sometimes that's a good way to go for your analysis. So think about it now, you're teasing apart the argument. You're really kind of taking all the different parts, showing your reader how they work and what made this argument stand up or flop. Sometimes they flop. So how to get started? Work backwards. What do you think about this argument? When you watch a commercial or you listen to a speech or you read an article, what's your gut reaction to it? Is the argument effective? Is it memorable? Let's start there. Let's just start with my overall reaction. And then I can work backwards and tell my reader and myself how I got there. Because I can't, as I put up here, just tell them, hey, this is what I felt about it, and then run away. That's not what a rhetorical analysis is. Begin with telling your reader what you feel about it, but now we need to show them how we got there. So what made this argument stand out? What made it so effective? So let's drill down even more. Now that we're going to tease apart these arguments, what are some good questions we can ask? Well, here's some good components here. The purpose. Is the purpose of this argument clear? Do I know exactly what this writer wanted from me? Do I know what this speaker wanted from me, what this commercial was trying to do? Or do I leave it and wonder, I have no idea what was going on there. It was very vague and very fussy. How about the audience? Did the creator of this argument seem to understand her target audience? Really understand what they would respond to and find memorable? Or the opposite, maybe this person had no idea who their target audience was. Well, if that's the case, the argument's really going to flop. It's going to be weak, and you'll see those moments where it's off key. How about those appeals? We know about those appeals now in our own writing. Emotional appeals, logical appeals, ethical appeals. Is the writer or the speaker or the company that's putting out this commercial, are they using those appeals effectively? If so, where are those moments? Show us. That's a part of your analysis you can really slow down on, is showing how the appeals function. And then how about the overall presentation? If it's a written piece, the way it's organized. Think back to your own work. I'm sure we've all created papers that were disjointed and messy, and that really damaged the overall effectiveness of our work. But maybe there were times where, man, you really gave a lot of thought to the organization of your paper, and it helped you communicate with your readers in an effective way. Same question we're going to ask to others. Is the paper effectively organized? Is it smoothly written? Are the transitions really solid from paragraph to paragraph? So that's a good list. You can kind of just keep that in your toolbox, that list, and break it out every time that you go to crack open an argument, no matter if it's a visual argument, a speech, or something that you've read. So let's actually put this into practice. I just brought, there are a million examples we could use here, but we've got this billboard, and it's a don't text and drive billboard, and you can see it's pretty graphic and it's pretty dark, right? See you soon, haha, I'm good, texting, driving, be there in 5 minutes. All on these headstones. So we get the sense that this was the last words. These were the last words of these people. And we are emphasized with that on the bottom here. We also see that it's put out by the Massachusetts, what's that? It's very official, let's put it that way. And then we get some small print down here. So let's say my task is to now tease this apart. I'm just going to say personally, I think this is pretty effective. It's clever. I think it stands out. If I were to look up at a billboard and see this, or open a magazine and see this, I'd slow down and look at it. And I'd probably be thinking about it, off and on after I put that magazine down. It's a solid ad, but I can't just stop there. I need to show my readers how I got to that point. So here's my web technique. You could copy this if you want. Nothing that special about it or high tech about it, but it's helped me when it comes to teasing different arguments apart. So for this, let's work backwards. I think that the ad is effective. I think it's moving. I also think it's memorable. Now let's see how I got there. The purpose, is it clear? Absolutely. I know that this organization does not want me to text and drive, and I can tell that from the visuals that they use. I can tell it by the tone and the language that they use, the way that everything is structured. So check. That's part of the reason I feel this is so effective, is that the purpose is clear. Do I have a clear sense of who they're trying to reach? I think so. I think it's wide open. I could say just teens, but there's really nothing that just specifies teens. I think it's after anybody who can drive a vehicle, and that was effective as well. It has a broad reach. It's really going to shake up a whole wide range of drivers. No matter who you are, they don't want you texting and driving, and they reach you well. How about those appeals, those emotional, logical, ethical appeals? I feel like the most effective one here, obviously, is the emotional appeal. I'm very moved with those tombstones, the headstones there, the language that they use, the way it's organized. Just makes me think, is that last text really worth it? Should I really send that text out when I'm on the highway? Can it wait? Because look at what could happen. Look at how stupid that would be if I didn't wait to text when I'm done driving. What could happen as a result? So the emotional appeal makes me feel like it makes me rethink my habits. It scares me a little bit. There's definitely a scare tactic happening here in an effective way. And then the presentation, I think it does a really solid job balancing those visuals with the text to create a memorable piece that makes me kind of think back to next time I get in the car, I'm going to wait. It does its work. This little commercial, this little advertisement really does its work. Here's another one. No, same category here. Another billboard. Simply text to deploy. Again, this organization does not want us texting and dropping. Stop the text. Stop the wrecks. Don't drive while you're texting. We see the airbags deployed. It's a standout. Another one that I feel is effective. But again, I'm going to tease it apart. I can't just say it's good or bad. I have to show my readers how I got there. So again, it's effective, it's moving, it's memorable. Is the purpose clear? Yes. Don't text and drive. I can't look at that billboard and have any confusion. Do I know who the audience is? Again, I think it's broad and deliberately so, and that's part of what makes it so solid. And then the appeals, I think, again, the emotional appeals. This isn't a logic heavy advertisement with a bunch of stats and numbers. I actually think that would weaken it. If we had a bunch of stats and numbers there and I only have a few seconds to look up on a billboard, it probably wouldn't impact me that much. But that big exploding airbag, that's an emotional appeal. That's an attempt to really make me feel like, wow, startled. I feel a little scared, I want to change my habits. In the presentation, it's eye-popping. I really liked how they did it with the airbag and the language that they use. So again, that's a web. You can use this exact setup where you get your gut reaction here in the circle, whatever you feel about that essay or that speech or that commercial. And then you can start to tease it apart and show us how you got there. But eventually, you're going to have to take all of this raw material and actually put it, in a rhetorical analysis style essay so that your readers can see. So here's just an example of a student writer that I've had in the past. A couple student examples, actually, of a commercial. So a visual argument. And you'll see the difference here in what's just pure summary and then how the writer switches gears and makes it more of an analysis. So she watched this commercial and she writes in the first example, in the commercial, the main character is worried to speak up and tell his friend not to drive. He's mostly concerned that everyone at the party will make fun of him, but he's also worried that if he doesn't speak up, his friend could get into a serious accident. It's a really solid summary. I have a sense of what this commercial is focused on based on the summary, but remember, that's not what a rhetorical analysis is. We're not just showing our readers what the argument was about. We have to show them what made it effective, specific components that made it effective. So let's see her switch gears here. The New Zealand commercial looks and sounds very different than most of the anti-drunk driving ads here in the States. Instead of scaring teens with gory pictures and shocking numbers, the NZ commercial makes their target audience laugh by following the internal thoughts of the main character. Since most teens are immune to the scare tactics found in anti-drug campaigns, the NZ commercial's fresh approach has a much greater chance of resonating with teens and getting them to not drink and drive. Whoa, way different. Not only am I learning now what the commercial was about, but she's really doing the heavy lifting and teasing this commercial apart to show us why it's so good. What made it so effective? Well, it's not trying to scare teens. It's not going after those common scare tactics that we see in Don't Drink and Drive commercials here in the States, but instead it's using humor. It's a very good presentation. The way it's set up is very different than the anti-drug campaigns that we see. It's much fresher. And it's not using numbers or scare tactics. So we're beginning to see that the humor here, the presentation of this advertisement really makes it work for this reader. And she's showing us specifically how she came to those overall conclusions. So I know that's a fast kind of, Mach speed overview of what a rhetorical analysis is. But the big takeaways is it's not a summary. We're not just showing our readers what the argument was about. But now we have to sit down and really tease it apart. And I think it's a good idea to use that web that I showed you. Work backwards. What's your gut reaction? And then you can begin to get your thoughts in line by teasing apart the different components there before you synthesize everything into an actual rhetorical analysis style essay. Okay, good luck everybody, and feel free to let me know if you have any questions.